Welcome back to Poorly Educated Today in the News, where we take the kind of headlines that ought to come with a warning label and explain them the only way America truly understands. With a little confusion, a little charm, and a whole lot of redneck wisdom. And folks, today feels like trying to keep a possum out of the corn crib while a tornado is also stealing your truck. Everything's flying around at once, and somehow the government's involved in all of it. So let's break it down before the country sprains something. Segment 1. Minneapolis, federal mayhem, and the crisis of who's actually in charge. Now, I ain't saying America has ever been a smooth-running machine, but on January 26, 2026, the country was running like a lawnmower somebody filled with moonshine instead of gasoline. Minneapolis is ground zero for the biggest showdown between the feds and the states since somebody said, "Hey, maybe we should read this 10th Amendment thing before we start yelling." The whole mess kicked off when federal tactical agents, the kind who show up dressed like G.I. Joe if G.I. Joe was real mad and didn't stretch first, stormed Minneapolis and ended up shooting Alex Pretty, a VA nurse, which is not the kind of fella you usually picture attacking anything other than a clogged IV line. The feds said he was basically John Wick with a Fitbit, claiming he had 2 magazines ready and was fixin' to annihilate law enforcement. Stephen Miller hopped on social media faster than a raccoon on an overturned trash can, calling the man a would-be assassin. Meanwhile, video footage seems to show the man on the ground, holding a phone, pepper-sprayed, surrounded by 6 agents, and nobody can find a gun in his hand unless it's one of those magic disappearing pistols you can only see after 3 shots of tequila. And then there's this Huerta Chuma fella, who the feds swear is basically the final boss of domestic crime. But Minnesota's own records say he don't have any felonies, which is awkward, because usually if you're doing a high-risk federal grab, you at least want to make sure the guy you're grabbing did anything. Anything at all. Like even returning a library book late would be something. Governor Tim Walz is over here trying to talk like a calm dad in the middle of a family meltdown, saying the feds have their facts wrong. Meanwhile, Trump calls him demanding the state hand over every undocumented immigrant, everyone with a criminal warrant, and basically anybody who ever ordered a taco on a Tuesday. Then he says local cops gotta start acting like backup dancers for ICE, swooping in on command. The White House calls this the "let cops be cops" doctrine, which frankly sounds like something you'd find printed on a t-shirt at a Bass Pro Shop right next to the hats that say "Fish fear me." Congress hears all this and decides, you know what? Let's do something productive, like choke the entire federal budget. Senator Patty Murray blocks the Homeland Security Appropriations Bill out of pure moral disgust, saying the government can't just shoot people in daylight and ask for money like it's a lemonade stand gone wrong. Then Senator Angus King, America's favorite moderate dad energy, says he won't vote for anything with ICE funding until this gets sorted out. Coming from him, that's like your calm uncle finally saying, "Y'all need Jesus," and walking off. So now the whole government might shut down, and honestly, the feds already act like they're improvising every decision, so I'm not sure anyone will notice the difference. Minneapolis protesters, meanwhile, are out in the streets, yelling at federal agents while the administration calls them Antifa, anarchists, and probably aliens if you gave them another hour. One federal agent even got his finger bit off, which proves 2 things. 1, things are bad, and 2, do not stick your hand anywhere near a Minnesotan who's already mad. Segment 2. Middle East muscle flexin', Kurdish betrayals, and Trump's victory laps. Now, while America's busy reenacting the world's least coordinated family reunion, The Middle East is going through more plot twists than a soap opera your grandma swears she doesn't watch, but somehow knows every character's name. The Trump administration basically woke up, stretched, cracked its knuckles, and said, "Let's rearrange Syria today." The U.S. straight up ditched the SDF, the Kurdish-led force we've been partnering with for a decade. These are the same folks who helped stomp ISIS into the desert floor. And now the U.S. Ambassador Tom Barrack says their role has expired, like they're a coupon for free hummus. Instead, the U.S. is now buddying up with the new Syrian transitional government, which is apparently shiny, new, and better at parties. Barrack says the Kurds should integrate into the new Syrian army, which is kind of like telling your roommate, "Hey buddy, since I changed the locks and threw your stuff in the yard, I figured you could go live with the neighbors." But here's the fun part. Right after we said, "Good luck, SDF, smell you later," Syrian forces backed by Turkey and every mercenary with a loyalty punch card launched a massive offensive. Towns fell, territory shrank, and even SDF commander Mazloum Abdi was told to either accept the new government's demands or get steamrolled. Meanwhile, ISIS detainees began escaping like somebody left the jailhouse door open and hung up a neon sign that said, "Midnight Madness Sale, 200 free terrorists." The U.S. scrambled to move 7,000 detainees into Iraq, which is basically the foreign policy version of sweeping everything under the couch before company arrives. Then there's the Gaza peace deal. Israel recovered the last missing hostage from October 7th, Ran Gvili, and Netanyahu declared him a hero. Trump celebrated this with what we'll politely call a modest victory lap, which, in Trump speak, means he posted online like he personally kicked down every door in Gaza himself. But Gvili's recovery lets the administration roll into phase 2 of its plan. Reopen the Rafah crossing, pour in aid, and hand Gaza to a team of technocrats. When a plan's got technocrats, you know it's serious because no redneck has ever walked into a bar and said, "Boy, you know who I trust." A technocrat. But the big picture. The Middle East is rearranging itself faster than a squirrel trying to hide pecans before winter, and America is in the middle of it, trying to make deals while hoping the previous deals don't explode. Segment 3. Trade wars, rare earth treasure hunts, and a whole lot of maple-flavored tension. Now let's swing back home, where America is once again doing business the only way it knows how. Loudly, dramatically, and with enough paperwork to make a possum cry. The U.S. government has decided it's tired of China owning the mineral supply chain, so it grabbed an ownership stake in USA Rare Earth down in Texas and Oklahoma. That's right. The federal government is now a part-time mining investor. We're about 2 steps away from the Commerce Secretary running around with a hard hat yelling, "Hit the mother lode, boys!" They pumped $277 million into the company, handed out a $1.3 billion loan, and even got stock warrants so taxpayers could profit, which is adorable since we ain't seen the government profit from anything except parking tickets. The private sector saw this and said, "Well, shoot, if the feds are doing it, we better jump in too," and dumped $1.5 billion into the pot. Like this was the Super Bowl of rare earths. USA Rare Earth stock soared over 20%, which honestly makes me want to go outside and start digging up my backyard. If I find a chunk of neodymium next to the septic tank, I'm retiring early. But while America is trying to dominate magnets, batteries, and whatever else makes our gadgets stop crying, Canada decided to go and poke the bear. Prime Minister Mark Carney struck a deal with China to bring in nearly 50,000 Chinese EVs a year at a discount, which made President Trump accuse Canada of being a Trojan horse. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I ain't never heard of a Trojan horse that runs on electricity and politely apologizes before invading. Trump threatened to slap 100% tariffs on every Canadian export if Carney keeps cozying up to Beijing. That's right. Maple syrup? 100% tariff. Hockey sticks? 100% tariff. Snow? Okay, Canada can keep that one. At Davos, Carney criticized countries that weaponize trade tools, which is bold, considering he said it while the U.S. president was sitting 2 rows away, giving him the kind of stare a cat gives when it's thinking about knocking your glass off the counter. Trump then uninvited Carney from his Board of Peace summit, which honestly sounds like a meeting where everyone angrily agrees to disagree. Carney's also barely holding on to power with a minority government, so he's trying to balance not making China mad, not making the U.S. mad, and not making Canadians mad, which is impossible because Canadians are already mad. He said mean things about poutine one time. This trade war's heating up faster than a Walmart rotisserie chicken, and we're all stuck here wondering whose car is going to cost double next week. Segment 4. Weather chaos, Super Bowl drama, baby health debates, and whatever NASA is up to. Now, folks, it wouldn't be a poorly educated episode if we didn't talk about the weather trying to murder the entire country. Winter storm, whatever. We're calling it now has slammed 26 states from Texas to Maine. The Northeast is covered in snow deeper than a politician's excuses. Philadelphia's got 40 centimeters of snow, New York's buried, and the Tug Hill Plateau is out here competing with Mount Everest. Meanwhile, the South is coated in ice so thick you could host the Winter Olympics in Mississippi, and nobody'd know the difference. Indiana is sitting under wind chills of -20 to -30 degrees, which is the temperature God uses to tell you not to go outside. Trees in Texas are literally exploding. And I want to pause here because I need y'all to imagine being a Texan, sitting on your porch with sweet tea, hearing a bang, and thinking, well, hell, is that my truck or my oak tree? That ain't winter. That's nature throwing a tantrum. Over 800,000 people lost power. Schools across half the country shut down. And honestly, I think the planet is trying to send us a message. Y'all ain't built for this. On the sports front, we got ourselves a rematch nobody predicted. The New England Patriots, led by rookie QB Drake May, who looks like he should still be taking algebra, beat the Broncos in a 10-7 snowball. Over in the NFC, Sam Darnold threw 374 yards, like he's suddenly allergic to failure. Seahawks beat the Rams 31-27, and now we're getting a Super Bowl rematch of the Malcolm Butler game. Preseason odds of this exact matchup were 4,800-1, which is real impressive until you remember the same odds apply to your cousin Earl successfully fixing the lawnmower using duct tape and prayer. Meanwhile, in entertainment news, the Gimme Shelter concert in Pennsylvania is raising money for housing. Biscuit Jam performed, which sounds like either a bluegrass band or a breakfast tragedy. The Sundance Film Festival saw the Kelsey and Swift families hanging out, which means half the country is excited and the other half is offended for reasons they cannot fully explain. Reggae legend Sly Dunbar passed away at 73. Reminding us that music icons live forever even if their bodies don't. In public health news, parents are increasingly refusing vitamin K shots for newborns. Now listen, y'all, I'm not a doctor. The closest I ever came to medical school was drinking cough syrup straight from the bottle. But even I know that babies are not supposed to be bleeding like horror movie extras. The CDC says flu season is bad, with 19 million infections and 10,000 deaths. So maybe, just maybe, don't get your medical advice from a Facebook group shaped like a casserole recipe page. On the tech side, Texas just banned a bunch of Chinese hardware, software, and probably fortune cookies if somebody misreads the memo. NASA dropped its spin-off 2026 magazine celebrating 50 years of turning space inventions into household tools. Apparently, one of the old astronauts is on the cover, which is good, because if they'd put Elon Musk on it, half the country would have melted like a snowman in July. And through all this, markets are swinging like a drunk barn door. Gold passed $5,100 an ounce, which means investors are scared enough to buy shiny rocks again. Tech stocks are doing fine, but not great. The AI industry is spending money like a teenager with their first paycheck, and housing loans finally dipped below 6%, which means buyers are looking around like, well, shoot, maybe we can afford a house with a roof this time. In conclusion, America is juggling a constitutional crisis, a Middle Eastern remodel, a trade war with Canada, a winter apocalypse, and a Super Bowl rematch all at the same time, which honestly proves that this country can multitask, badly, but enthusiastically. So stay warm, stay curious, and stay poorly educated, because if we ever get too smart, none of this will make sense anymore.